Hi, everybody. This is Chloe Hudson with World Peace Projects. Thank you so much for joining me. So today I wanted to talk about karmic purging. I am doing this video in light of a new group session I'll start probably weekly. I'm going to offer the first round of these this Friday, which will be November 10th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Zoom. This will be a 2-hour class for $80. I am maxing this at 4 participants each. The second class will be on Saturday, November 11 at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, 4 participants max, $80 each. And there is 1 to 2 spots left on both days. So if you'd like to sign up, go ahead and do that. Follow the link below. Now, in light of these new group sessions I'm offering, I wanted to talk about the importance of our karma and tracking timelines. We've talked about this a lot on this channel, and I've offered a lot of variations of classes and courses on this. Before I dive into that information, I would like to note that there is a specific masculine that I would like to ask. Are you aware that she's been dosing you yet through your food? In the words of Kanye West, I ain't saying she's a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke.
That we're here for one thing and one thing only.
Can I get you something? Try a lotus flower. They're so good. It's our signature dish.
Oh, really signature? Is it good?
Thank you. That's really good.
Wow, this is the most delicious thing I've ever consumed.
Wow. Guys, why don't we stay here for a while?
That sounds like an amazing idea. But we're on a time-sensitive mission right now. Aren't we?
I can't remember.
I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
I think I figured it out. I think I know why we're here.
Why are we here?
To have fun.
Okay. Let's never leave. Let's stay here.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you are interested in one-on-one sessions, please check out worldpeaceprojects.global. I also offer personalized intuitive coaching, telepathic communication with your animals, passed on loved ones, what have you, and a slew of classes and courses that are already preloaded and many to come. So, karmic purging is a topic that many of us are aware of, and in this astrological climate, and also simply just the energetics of where we're at in the world today, on our own personal experiences and timelines, and also economically, globally, ecologically, what have you. There is a coming back around of sorts of a lot of karmic loops that have been playing out and are anchored in our lineage, in our bloodline, our DNA, and then past lives, if this is something that you indulge in, such as I do, and the evolution experiences, desired lessons, and or possibly enslaved anchors of your soul experience. Now, let me clarify real quick the differentiation from my perspective of soul versus spirit. And I often compare this to the soul is to the spirit as the ego is to your consciousness. So just like the ego, on a more macro scale, your soul is a vessel in which is accumulating a lot of experience from your external environment and experiences. It is a vessel of sorts that is actionary in its nature and propels you forward through time. Your ego is a more, let's say, mortal experience that comes along with this flesh vessel, right? Your ego dissolves with you as your physical body dissolves, though the consciousness learning and experiential gain that you have accumulated through each timeline or lifetime is now recorded in your soul experience. And your soul traverses with you through your different timelines and experiences in your existence and throughout their incarnations. Your spirit is the frequency energy that is all things. It is the makeup, the concentration, the pure rarefied origin point, the plasma that is all that is. It is a more source energetics. For me, I perceive my spirit has its own frequency signature, which will differentiate me vastly from each other individuated spirit embodiment, though we're all a microcosm made up of an ultimate larger source spirit, divine frequency energetics. That's how I view it. So as we know, as a human being, we're learning to master our ego, our id, understand how our psyche and our unconscious and subconscious influences the way we show up in the world, and embody or do not embody a more conscious, emotionally intelligent, cognizant representation of self-actualization, right? It is the same for soul. We have a soul that navigates us through our existences and is a part of our embodiment through incarnations, whether that be a physical incarnation or a more etheric, energetic incarnation in other dimensionalities or timelines, is how I view it. And it has the recording of our memory. So there is a difference between our celestial DNA and our physical DNA. This is a topic that my mentor, Lauda Leon of Sovereign Key, taught me, and we talked about a lot. And she's talked about this in her videos, is that there is, in this inverted matrices that many of us on this channel perceive that we're now incarnated into, right? In this domain, there is an overlay of our physical lineage, ancestral and heritage, heritage and DNA over our celestial inheritance. So there is often a difference. There's often a wide variation between the two. And it is common enough that our physical lineage and ancestral inheritance sullies and overshadows, hides our celestial efforts to corrupt our celestial inheritance, right? And this can play out through our karma. Now, when I speak of timelines, I am not necessarily talking about the entirety of another lifetime, though it can be. I use timelines as an umbrella statement or term where I'm simply speaking of any block or range of what we call time or experience that we are focused in on that moment. I shall define that as a timeline. Now, a timeline might be 5 minutes in time wherein a root trauma in your life and your childhood anchored, and that has now become a karmic loop, like a Groundhog's Day, that your altar or your aspect, which is a part of you that had that experience, fractured into its own microcosm of experience and is now looping its consciousness through that experience. That's all it knows, that's all it sees, because after all, it's a fracture. It's an energetic expression. This is something I've covered in altars and aspects. I'll try to link that below. That could be one timeline we're focused on, because that's a very important block of time or experience within your existence. That's the entirety of the timeline for that aspect, because that's how your aspect was created And that's all it knows, because it's simply a percentage or a fraction of your consciousness that is now splintered off. It has disassociated from your psyche, or your consciousness is another way to say it. And it's now free floating and needs to be reintegrated back into your holistic conscious self in order to heal the trauma, the loop pattern, and integrate back into your more holistic experience. Another way we can look at this is a lifetime. A timeline absolutely can be an entire lifetime. And it is common enough in my experience when tracking timelines and karma that while we've had a fracture moment in this life, which is often through the child aspects, because many of our root fractures have manifested and originate from being a child, because we're so very vulnerable as a child. We're so impressionable, and our boundaries and our energetic malleability is so easily imposed upon and affected. You may have a fracture moment within your childhood that is a root of the karmic loops you might be experiencing in your life, though it can still be tracked beyond this lifetime to other lifetimes, where you then understand that there's a larger karmic loop playing out here in the macro experience. So in this group session, what we're going to be focusing on, which is the same work as reverse engineering timelines. It's a course I've produced and taught before, and I will also be doing, I'll be starting groups, kind of an adjunct to the karma purging group sessions, which will also be more focused on reverse engineering timelines. So in karma purging sessions, we're going to be looking at anything you want to focus on that you're aware is a karmic loop, or maybe you have an inkling that it is. It could be a trauma moment. It could be, poverty consciousness. It could be shame, foundational beliefs. It can be anything you want to look at, right? But we're going to track it through a karmic perspective. And in doing that, we will identify the timeline where it has manifested and anchored. And then we will utilize the process, which I have coined. There's many ways to say this. Many different practitioners utilize this methodology, but personally, I call it reverse engineering timelines. We will utilize this method, this technique, to identify, reverse, re-engineer, heal, and ultimately change the outcome of what has happened in your perceived past, so that it rolls out to alter the experience in your present, which will be the aspect where it anchored their future. Okay. And while we're doing this work, if you are a student of karmic timeline tracking, I will also be assisting you through conscious awareness, and simply by you kind of pulling in the energies of what we're collectively creating, so that you can follow my line. If anybody hasn't heard that term before, let's say you're an outdoor adventure enthusiast. Let's say you're a snowboarder, and you may choose to follow the line of the snowboarder in front of you, because obviously that's a safe route. So I'm going to be helping you to, frequentially speaking, follow my line, so that you can begin to up-level and open into your more intuitive access to tracking frequency signatures. It is very, very important in this line of work, and in many lines of work, to learn how to track frequency signatures, so you can suss out what is really happening, what's the illusion before you, what's hidden, what have you. Everything is frequency. If you learn how to track frequencies, whether subtle or obvious, you can begin to reveal so many experiences, emotions, root traumas, hidden subconscious belief systems, what have you. It's all frequency. So when we learn how to identify and track frequency, and or clarify how we're already doing it. We're simply not cognitive of it, because everybody does this to some capacity in some extent, right? This could be as simple as talking about nonverbal body cues. That is one way that we're tracking frequency signature, right? It's a more physiological manifestation of it, but that's simply an example. So I've been working very intimately lately with karma, and I did a whole comprehensive video on karma and its nature. And what I've been opening into more is the lineage and ancestral components of karmic looping itself. Now, this is a very interesting experience that I've been grappling with lately in regard to how I've been becoming more aware of whether we like it or not, we are indebted to the ancestral inheritance of karma through our ancestral line. Now, what has helped me to make peace with some of this is that while it's easy to think of our ancestors as somebody other than us, there are many examples that I have directly tracked where it has revealed to me that my soul is the same soul as an ancestor. Another way to look at this, which I was studying with another client the other day, between her and her dog, it was really a beautiful experience, is how both of them were sharing an ancestral connection through their bloodlines that took us back to a timeline that we were viewing and healing. And it wasn't so much that that was them in that life. It was more that the consciousness of the soul grouping that runs through their blood is connecting them to the timeline. So they are one and the same, but more indirectly than if it was their soul manifest in that timeline and in this timeline. So this is one way when we're looking at authentic timelines, not simulated timelines where maybe you're tuning in and you perceive you're viewing a timeline, but it's actually a simulated timeline, a false insert, I would call it. I'm getting a little advanced here, but this happens a lot, where you're accessing lifetimes and timelines. It's a false insert, and you think you're tracking a timeline, but it's really not your lifetime. It's simply an overlay. Though if you can't read the frequency signatures, you don't know how to clarify that this is a simulation, that it's a hijack and a hack into your consciousness. You're simply tuning into an etheric realm where the sim knows how, the AI, to simply match and offer you up a holographic insert that you will resonate with because it has read your frequency signature and understands what it is you're hoping to access. I explain a lot about this in Psychic Protection. I have 2 courses on Psychic Protection, and we go into holographic inserts, but I will remaster Psychic Protection course and relaunch that in the near future. But anyhow, so there's a difference between tracking authentic timelines, which is, it's a requirement to know how to read frequency signatures to understand if it's authentic or if it's a holographic insert. And I will help you with this as you follow my line through the group sessions. Though working with ancestral inheritance, there's been an experience that I'm noticing lately in my personal endeavors of healing that is a theme for the masses, because that's just how it goes, right? We experience unique, individual, personalized healing processes that are also playing out simultaneously for mass consciousness, and we're all experiencing our version of it, whether conscious or subconscious, because that's simply where we're at in the collective timeline. That's what needs to be viewed and looked at. And right now, because there's so much clearing, which can be tracked astrologically as well, of why, from one way to explain why it's happening right now is astrologically, is it's a wonderful time for clearing karma. Whether you want it or not, it's clearing itself, or it's playing out, or it's looping itself. There must be chapters closed in certain karma. There's a deadline, so to speak. And if you're able to consciously work with this, you can really be very efficient in clearing a tremendous amount of your karma that you may have been harboring through ancestral line. That's what I'm focused on right now. There's other ways to do it, but right now we're primarily looking at ancestry. And the ancestors are hyper aware that this is happening right now. And they want the karma cleared because they're also going through a reckoning, right? There is constant ability and access to learning and up-leveling in our consciousness, regardless if we have a physical corporeal body or not. So beings that are on the other side, that are across the veil, that are in other dimensions, that have died or passed on, however you want to say it, and everything in between, are still always in the school of spirit and consciousness. There is always the experience of manifesting and experiencing karma, the opportunity to evolve and or devolved, in the in-between where we're in a stagnation, we're in the void, what have you. So the ancestors are going through their own push right now for a possible ascension or descension, for a graduation or being held back a term, if we're going to put it this way. And so there's a push onto their descendants, aka us, those that have come after them, to clear the karma that they weren't able or didn't understand was at hand and playing out in their timelines. And there is a lot of awareness and learning that many of the ancestors are having around what was actually playing out, now that they're able to pull away the veil and the illusion that their ego overlaid onto them, understand how their actions and experiences and timelines are now affecting us, and what that means, what the ramifications are for us and them. And they want this cleared. So many ancestors are in a process right now of repentance, which is a beautiful thing. So they're that much more present to assist and support you. This is not only playing out on human to human dynamics, through human family lines. This is also playing out macro to micro with the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, with Earth Mother, with interdimensionals, with extraterrestrials, with other planetary karmic inheritances, because so many of us know that while we may be focused on our more micro karmic loops that happen through our individual lifetime, there's also macro karmic loops playing out planetarily, galactically, what have you. So there's this fantastic support system right now to clear a prolific amount of karma, to clear so many very specific maybe curses through your ancestral line and everything in between, right? I'm going to use curse right now as a catch-all phrase, but this could be hex, jinx, sabotage, blockages, what have you. And another reason that it's an imperative timing to do this is because so many of us are at a timeline split. Which way are we going to go? Are we even conscious that our choices and our consciousness and our decisions and the near past decisions that we've just recently made and are still making are going to be the deciding factors in which timeline you're going to access. There's a timeline jump, but it doesn't mean that the timeline you're jumping onto is the one that's ultimately beneficial and or desirable for your consciousness and your ancestors. So can you be conscious right now and utilize and benefit from the support that's offered to you to truly shed off the etheric karmic security blankets, the binky, so to speak. Oh, that's interesting. When I said binky, that makes me think of the vape right now and how that's turning into a massive epidemic that you've been holding on to or not. Because if you can't, there will be a timeline split, which you might not even be aware of, but inevitably could definitely be a dissension in your consciousness, or at the very least a stagnation, which isn't what we desire usually if we're watching channels like this, right? We're working on our consciousness if we're tuning into these types of metaphysical, spiritual self-help modalities. So we want to utilize the energy at hand, take the advice and the help from the ancestors and the guides, what have you, from spirit, and make correct choices. Be courageous, feel the fear, and do it anyway, so that we can timeline jump in the avenue and the direction that is highly desired right now. And when we jump these timelines and anchor that, the prosperity and abundance gifts of your celestial inheritance that you have now finally earned, right? Because it could be in your individuation process, you already earned what was in your celestial destiny, but it doesn't mean your lineage and your ancestors collectively, including you, have earned it. We to some capacity have made these agreements to be a part of that soul grouping and that collective. So in a way, especially inheritance through DNA and lineage, we see this all the time with physical dis-ease that may have been inherited. We still take on the burden. We all share the brunt of the challenges. So even if it wasn't your direct experience or manifestation, you're still linked to it, therefore have chosen in some capacity to take on the responsibility of the karmic debt. And now you have the ability to clear it. And not only are you clearing it for you, but you're assisting the ancestors to clear it for them, which is a form of tithing, which means that the multitude of prosperity that comes back for you can be that much more amplified. Doesn't mean it's exponential, but it will be increased upon itself that many times over because you've done a service to others, which is always rewarded by spirit, whether we see that immediately or know it directly. So the ancestors require you to ask them for help. Oftentimes they can create enough inertia and momentum to break through the veil and contact you and reach you. This could be through dream state, which is an easier way to do it. This could be through indirect messages from others. This could be from symbology, what have you, right? It's very personal to each unique experience, but help them help you by asking for help. You have your own free will consciousness that was meant to be sovereign. Therefore, if you desire assistance and support, you must request it, because spirit, and especially other beings that are working to be benevolent or altruistic or at least non-invasive, understand and respect the laws of free will in nature. They trust that you know what's best for you. Therefore, they're not going to impose unless there's an urgent situation that they deem acute for them to press into your conscious awareness. So if you want help from them, ask for help. Consistently ask for help. Consistently offer your gratitude and thankfulness that they are there helping you, and trust in this. And understand that their access point is behind the scenes. You're not always going to be aware of it, but this is where faith and trust plays in. And Something that I've become very aware of with spirit is the more I invest my energy into my faith and my trust in spirit, the more I am protected, and that is amplified, and more beings in different types of consciousness and even revealments of my different types of consciousness are revealed to me, because it's a frequency signature match to accessing that much more consciousness. So if you are interested in experiencing what I'm talking about, what I'm explaining, if you want to experience this in real time, please sign up for Karma Purging group sessions. The first round of this will be this Friday, November 10 at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. 4 participants max, $80, 2 slots left for that class. The next one will be Saturday, November 11 at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. 1 slot left for that class, 4 participants max. It's going to be a really wonderful time. We're not only going to work to heal and clear and reverse engineer your karmic timelines, but I'm also going to help you, if you're interested, to also learn how to follow my line and begin tracking your karma and frequency signatures. And because it's in a group collective experience, it will support what we're doing. It supports the healing and the change and the transformation, the transmutation that much more, because as a collective energy, we help each other. It's that much more amplified and magnified. If you're interested in one-on-one sessions, coaching, courses, classes, or just to hop onto my email newsletter, please check out worldpeaceprojects.global. I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you for taking a second and liking this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.